Howdy folks, Aunt Tori here with Taste in Texas. Today we are going to cook up a boneless pork loin. I like to buy it like this because it's a whole lot cheaper than buying it in steaks. And then I cut it into my own little steaks and cook it. And we will get this plastic off of here. Alrighty, now that's better. Now I gave this a little rinse in the sink. I like to open my meats over the sink because typically there's a little bit of juice in the package there for you. Give it a little feel, make sure there's nothing in there that I don't want. I've got a little piece of bone here that got skipped, so I want to remove that before I start. Alrighty. Now just to make this a little easier to deal with, I'm going to cut it in half because it doesn't fit on my cutting board. I got a little bit of silver skin on here. It's going to be easier to get off now. You can leave it on, but then you end up chewing on it when it's time to eat. Now you're not going to get it all, and chances are good you're going to make it look kind of funky, but that's all right. You cook it up, a little seasoning on it, a little sauce, a little side dish. You won't even notice. Just remember, a little at a time, a little dab will do ya. Nice and gentle with your knife there. There we go, that's most of it. Got a little ceramic knife here. Little chiefy knife, but nothing fancy, no skills, no fancy skills required, just a little bit of patience. See? Just go right along, you're pulling back with a little bit of pressure, and then just kind of laying that knife against it with ever so slightly. Cut a little bit and go a little further, and cut a little bit and go a little further. Alrighty, now I've got most of that silver skin off. Now the bottom side you can see is a little rough. It's been a minute since I have trimmed one of these up. Had a little bit of overcut, so I have some chopped pork here for another dish. We'll work with that later. Put that aside for right now. Now this will be a whole lot easier if you got a freezer and you put this in the freezer for, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. You'll have to check it, and you want it firm but not frozen, and if you can firm it up, it's a whole lot easier to work with. But out here at the cabin, I don't have a freezer like that, so we're just working with it, you know, as if it came straight out of the ice chest. It's refrigerator cold, but it's not firmed up from a freezer. So you can put this on the barbecue just like it is. You know, you got a couple of nice pieces there. You can smoke them up, do what you will with them, and cut them afterwards. Today, I think I'm going to cut them before I cook them. Our plan is to try a new rub today. Being real careful to cut only the pork loin and not the, you know, the digits. We want to keep all of those functioning as best as we can. The nice thing about buying the whole pork loin is you can cut them as thick or as thin as you like. Again, if you have this partially frozen, it's nice and firm, and it's real easy to get good straight slices. So my slices are a little crooked, but that's all right. So there we are. We're getting our slices done. I like them about 3/4 to an inch thick. And that's a nice breakfast steak going on right there. Now we got these all cut up into these lovely little steaks. Now here at the end, I had this little sort of skinny piece where I had split it. I split that up so it's going to lay pretty flat. It's going to be a little funny looking, but it's still going to taste just fine. That keeps me from having just a skinny little piece here. You just slit it down the side there. I'm going to spice up my pieces and put them in my tin so I can carry them out to the grill. Somebody had gifted me a barbecue rub. I see salt, sugar, 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 so it's got to be sweet. Chili peppers for a little bit of heat and some extra spices. Not endorsing them, just showing you what we're trying today. Got that opened up. We'll give a little shaker on some of these. Pat it down on both sides. Pat it down. Stick that in my pan. Now the sugar is going to pull some moisture out of the meat. So we're going to have a little juice rolling in the pan over here shortly. And that's all right. Salt does the same thing. Pulls some of the moisture out of your meat. It makes it a little juicy. And what that does is it helps concentrate those flavors. So I had these little pieces here that I showed you earlier. Use them to pick up these spices that fell on the cutting board here. And I gave my cutting board a quick clean up. Now, a little trick, you can put a couple pieces of paper towel down there. It gives you better traction if you've got a cutting board that likes to slide all over the place. That'll help keep it from sliding on you. Get that other piece out. Now, this is the shorter end of the loin piece. You can see how the colors change. Now, you've got silver skin all in between here, so you're not going to get that out. You'll end up with, you know, a bunch of little teensy pieces. So we just leave that in. That's why I like to do this end as a roast, because it's got those smaller ends of the muscle group in there. And this I'm just going to use salt on. Now, I found a new salt that I really like. It's called Baja Gold. It's a mineral sea salt. And I'll tell you what, it is tasty. I am not a big salt person. I've always used salt because, you know, you need salt. And if you don't have salt, you notice it. But I don't like stuff to taste salty. This salt is awesome. I don't know what the difference is, but the salt is awesome. It's got whatever trace minerals in it that our body are like, oh yes, give me more of that. And so I'm trying my barbecue with this today. Now I put a little in a dish so I don't take it straight out of the bag, because, you know, touching on raw foods and putting it in your bag of spices or your bottle of spices is never a good plan. So we're just going to sprinkle some salt on here, rub it in like that. We're going to kind of pat it here on the end so we get all the surfaces covered. It's gonna be delicious. I just can't wait. All right, now there's not too much on there, just a little bit. May have to put a pinch more when it comes out. I try not to drown it, but you know, it's a fairly slender piece of meat, so we don't want to drown it in salt. We just got some salt sprinkled on there. Put that over here in my tin so it's ready to go on the grill. And let's go get the grill started. Ooh, there she is, our big green egg. This is an extra large model. Now it's seen some years and some use. It's got some accoutrement over there. As I said, we're out at the cabin, so it's not all finished out here. It's not mowed and what have you. I've got a 24-inch cooking surface. This is our top that we put on while we're cooking. We take this off. This keeps it clean, keeps critters out, keeps rain out while we're not using it. And with this, we can get a really nice adjustment as to how much air we want to let in. Now, it takes a little practice to get used to where you want the settings for your area, but once you got them, you know, this thing is awesome. You set it and you forget it. It's super fuel efficient. You know, that's what I love about it. Very well insulated. The ceramic is super thick. It's nice and heavy. There are many imitators out there, but there's only one big green egg. I'm going to get this taken apart and start fueling it up. Alrighty, we got all the old ash scraped out of there. Put us some new lump charcoal in there. A couple of pieces of mesquite on top. And I use one of these little light cubes. It's a paraffin wax type product. I really like these because they start clean and they're easy. You get it tucked in here under some of these bits of wood and stuff. And now it's got the cube started. Gonna get that wood started. Be careful not to burn yourself, but I like to stack just a few little pieces kind of near. Make sure you got these air holes open around the side. Getting plenty of air up to your fire. I got a lot of little pieces in there today because I'm at the bottom of the pile. So we're going to hope that this turns out all right. But I have faith. Once I get a good fire going, that it'll be just fine. Get some of these bigger pieces of charcoal and stick them up there close to where the fire going to be coming out. Get them started, you know, without choking it. There we go. We're going to let that do its business. And remember to open the flue down underneath. Got to have air coming in the bottom and going out the top to get that fire started. There's a heat diffuser, piece of ceramic that goes in there just above the flame, and then the grate goes on top of that. So we'll get that put back together while this fire takes off. It's been about 15 minutes. So now we got a little heat on the grill. We're gonna clean up these grates. Now I typically like a wire brush, but you gotta be real careful. Cheap brushes lose their bristles very easily. This is not a cheap brush, but I have had it for a lot of years. As you can see, I've done a lot of scrubbing with it. And I noticed just today, we got our first little bristle off of it. So we're gonna have to retire that. See these little wires? You do not want those left on the grill. You end up eating those in your meat and very bad things happen to you. So watch out for those. Now you can get you a stainless steel sponge, scrub these grates with. That gets all that old stuff off the top, makes them all nice and shiny. Kind of get it down in between so nothing sticking up. Just go over the whole grate that way. Cleaned up just like new. Be ready to put a fresh piece of meat on it. The other thing you can use is a piece of aluminum foil. You just put it, ball it up rough. Takes a little more elbow grease. Get all that stuff rubbed off. 30 minutes later. Alrighty now, time to get this beautiful meat on the grill. I'll start with this big old roast. Set it right here in the center. Get everybody laid out here so that they're all going to get some of this delicious smoke. Now I am using mesquite wood to smoke. That is a Texas favorite. Hardwoods are good for smoking. Oak is also very popular. Pecan is very popular in this area. All very good for smoking. For the lighter meats, such as pork or chicken, we're doing pork today, but for the lighter meats, if you have a fruit wood, like an apple wood or a pear wood, those put a nice little sweetness on those lighter flavored meats. Typically isn't strong enough for the more red meats like beef or lamb would be. You'd want to use a stronger smoke like a pecan or an oak rather than your fruit woods for those. I pretty much put mesquite on everything though, so you know, it is what it is. But there we are. We got all our little fresh cut steaks laid out there with our barbecue seasoning and our roast ready to go. We're going to close that bad boy up. Make sure we got smoke coming out the top. Can y'all see that? And we watch that temperature gauge. It's at 0 right now. Remember, this is reading up close to the top. And our food is down here. So this is going to read warmer than what's actually down here on the cooking grate. So you want to take that into consideration when you are looking at your temperature. But I like this to get up to about 2, maybe 250. Stay right in there. That keeps it around 152 down on the meat. I like to do a slow smoke. We're not doing this fast. We're not really grilling. This is more of a smoke. So a nice, gentle, slow smoke to really infuse that smoke flavor into the meat. And we'll come back and check on it in a little while. As I said, we're at the cabin today, so we're going to use our little camping stove. See about cooking up a side. I don't need that on too high, just a little bit. I'll melt a pinch of butter. Those little pieces that I'd overcut earlier, we're going to use them. We're going to throw those in there. Well, I say we're going to throw them in there. They don't want to leave. There we go. Get them cooked up just a little bit. Get that butter melted. Get those little bits of pork cooked up. Shouldn't take too long. I'll do one of these pots to cook up sides. You know who they are. Put a little pork in there. I'll bring those flavors together. There we go. We got these little pork pieces cooked and firmed up. Get those out of there and cut them a little smaller. Be sure to turn your hot plate off if you're not using it. Got that pork chopped up, much smaller pieces. It's easier to cut once you cook it. We've got our water and our cream and our butter together. And pour that in there, just according to the directions on the back of this package. Now I like to experiment a little bit and put some peas in here. I got about a third of a can of peas left from something we cooked last night. Those are out of a can, but we rinsed them real good. And so they're just ready to go in and be used. Go get some mushrooms. All right, here we go. Just a small can of mushrooms. It's been rinsed and chopped just a little bit because, you know, some of these pieces come out of here really big. I like a good mushroom chew, but some of those are really big. And you can put in here whatever you want. Don't be afraid to experiment. But, pour the package in with all its lovely little seasonings. And like I said, this is out of the cabin. Some of this stuff's been here a while, and so we like to drain and rinse those canned goods real well. They come out mighty tasty. We're gonna get the heat on and get this to cooking. Whatever the recommended cook time is. I believe it says bring to a boil, cover, reduce heat, and simmer for a little while. So we'll be back in a little bit. There it is, boiling along, getting all tender and delicious. A few more minutes. So now it has boiled the requisite amount of time according to the package. I like to give it a stir. See if I can pull me a noodle out, which is always the fun part, just getting one. There we go. Drain it. We'll check to make sure the texture is just where I like it. Be careful because it's going to be hot. Just a little al dente. It's delicious. Let that sit and firm up, and we'll go check on our pork outside on the grill. Been about 30 minutes now. Come check on the heat. Looks like we need a little more heat. So I'm going to open up this vent at the bottom just a hair. Doesn't blow quite as much in the evening as it, in the afternoon as it does in the evening. So we got to open a little more than I'm used to. We can open this top vent up a little more too. And just let it sit and see how that does. We gave it another 30 minutes and we come check again. Almost at about 200 degrees. Should be about 135 or so down on the grill. See what it looks like. Ooh, coming right along. These are firming up nicely. It needs a little more time, I think. Smoking is all about doing it easy like. Let's see how it's got a little jiggle to it. That means it's still raw on the inside. These steaks, see how they're still pretty floppy? Means they're still raw on the inside. So we're gonna have to let them cook a little longer. We'll give it another 30 minutes and come check on them again. Oh, those look good and firm. I'll have to cut it in and make sure. See how they got some firmness to them. Chicken the same way. You'll see it firm up like that. I'll say that needs a little more cooking. See how it's still a little soft because it's a bigger piece of meat. It'll take a little longer. Let that sit there for a while and finish up. Okay, we gave it about 15-20 more minutes now. Let's check. Oh, that's much better. Much better. And what I do with this egg is I just close it up and let it stop. Close it up there. Close it up down here. That fire will go out. Anything in there that's still wood will turn into your natural lump charcoal, and you just dust the ashes away and use those pieces of charcoal next time you grill. All right, that's a good looking piece of meat there. You can serve it up as a whole roast on the table with all your goodies on the sides, or you can go ahead and cut that up into steaks or however you like. I'm gonna get that cut up into steaks so I can put it in the freezer back at the house and keep it for another day. All right, we got our pork steaks all cooked up, ready to go. Let's take a cut into it just to make sure it looks done. Oh, you betcha, look at that. That is ready to roll. Pork steak. Gonna get us a little bit of this pasta that we cooked up earlier. Yes, sir. We are ready to chow down. Take just a little bit of this. This is that pork chop with that seasoning that was donated to me. Let's see what it tastes like. Mmm. Mm-hmm. It's got a little bit of sweet and just the tiniest little bit of heat. That is tasty. Pairs really well with this little pasta dish that I cooked up. Mm-hmm. And we are eating good at the cabin today. Thanks so much for joining us today. God bless.